Christine, who was with us a little while back for part one of Bookshare, and now here we are for part two. So I'll turn it over to you, Christine.
Hey, everybody. It's good to be with you again. And I know that you're all counting the days down to your summer break. So thank you for making time to be with me. I think I might have mentioned in our last session that my husband is a high school math teacher. So he is definitely counting down the days. So I know that you all are getting tired and uh, just so deserving of a break. But this is a great time to think about getting students set up to read for this over the summer. So that's what I want to focus on today, to encourage you to put in that last little bit of effort to try to get some kids set up to read this summer, because Bookshare offers a lot for them in that regard. So let me go ahead and jump into some slides, but most of today will be demo. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And jump over to the slides. Okay, so just by way of kind of refresher, and while my slides maybe are coming up on your screen, I'm Christine Jones. I'm an independent consultant with the Minnesota Department of Education, specifically to help educators learn about Bookshare. I spent nearly 12 years at Benetech, the parent company of Bookshare, and was most recently an associate director of global literacy there, in which in that role I oversaw the customer support team and a lot of the state outreach. So I had already built a relationship with Kirsten at Minnesota Department of Ed through that, and she was kind enough to offer some work to me once I was laid off from Bookshare, which was just over a year ago. So I'm happy to be able to continue letting educators know about Bookshare. So today we're going to learn how to assign books to students. Last time I met with you, we talked about how to create an account, how to add students to your account. So today we're going to talk about how to assign books to your students once they're on your account, and then how to show them how to log in and read. We're going to mostly focus on one way that students read, which is using Bookshare web reader. But there are many different ways to read, and so I'll go through how you can find out, what the other options are for student reading. And I'm not sure if I covered it last time, so I want to try to get to it this time, how to help your students get individual memberships, which are really key for summer, because then they can access the collection, the full collection entirely on their own. They don't need a teacher to assign books to them, which is the case when they just have a school account. And that obviously isn't going to help them much over the summer if they're not able to contact a teacher to assign a book to them. So we'll cover that as well. But first, some very quick announcements. And one of these is not only very exciting, but I found out this morning that I'm a little bit ahead of the game here. It was a little preliminary. I included in my first version of this slide deck that some of you may have seen previous to maybe 30 minutes ago, a link to the page that features this first announcement. But then I actually heard from the Bookshare team that I had found that before they were ready to make it public. And so they asked me not to share the link. But bottom line, Bookshare is about to roll out some human narrated audiobooks after obviously many, many years of that being requested. They finally have been able to work it out with a publisher to provide some human narrated books. And they're the summer campaign theme this summer is going to be #Summer of Audio for that reason. So I can tell you a little bit about it. There'll be more information forthcoming. I believe it's next Monday that Bookshare is making their official announcement. But there will be 3 different lists of books available in human narrated audio. One is for kids, one is for teens, and one is for adults. There are definitely some popular titles on there, some others that you might not have heard of as much, but one of the books that I noticed on the kids list is How to Train Your Dragon, for example, and there are a few others that you'll recognize. And there'll be instructions for how to access them, how students can read them. all of that will be forthcoming. So watch for that information, but pretty exciting. And the hope at Bookshare is that more and more publishers are going to help them build their collection of human narrated audio. So very exciting. The other exciting announcement, and I do have a link to this in the slides, which is that there is going to be a new suite of reading tools made available by Bookshare. Some of you, if you've been around for any length of time, you might remember that Bookshare used to have and promote heavily its own app. It was called Read to Go. It's an iOS app. And then it is very resource intensive to maintain an app. You have to update it regularly every time, Google or iOS makes updates. And basically, Benetech made the decision there were other reading tools that were willing to work with us to make their tool compatible with Bookshare, like Voice Dream Reader and the other one, Dolphin Easy Reader, were very willing to work with Bookshare to make their tools integrate very smoothly with Bookshare. And it just seemed to be a better use of Bookshare's resources to focus on making its library the best that it could be and working with those third-party companies rather than maintaining their own apps. However, the downside of that is that there were so many different apps and tools reading Bookshare books that the experience becomes difficult for users, but especially for educators who are trying to support students who are reading, and they're using a wide variety of tools. So educators have to become experts on such a wide variety of tools that we'd heard, even when I was still there, heard from many educators, boy, it would sure be better if Bookshare could just have their own tool and their own apps and they all looked and acted the same. So that's basically where Bookshare is going. They already have a new version of Bookshare web reader. I think it's called the Bookshare Reader, out in beta. I haven't seen it. I know that some districts in the country are testing it, and it's apparently a huge improvement over the current Bookshare web reader. And then they're going to launch iOS and Android apps that are very similar to that Bookshare web reader, the Bookshare Reader. Excuse me. They're going to announce those or launch those later in the year. I think they're shooting for around back to school. So just watch for more updates there. That's all very exciting. So if you have any questions about that, I can do my best to answer them, but I don't know that much more than what I've already told you. I do want to also suggest that you bookmark this page here, the ABCs of Bookshare for educators. It's really not only a go-to resource for getting started, but for everything about using Bookshare. It's just a really easy to use page to be able to get all your questions answered. So now I'm going to demonstrate how to assign books to students, how students can log in to read on Bookshare web reader, and I'll show you how to find other ways for students to read. And then we'll talk briefly about how to get students individual memberships and talk about the summer program. I'm going to jump over to Bookshare now. So hopefully you're able to see this. This is bookshare.org, and this is the homepage of Bookshare. And last time I went through, how to sign up for an account, an organizational account, how to add students. So today I'm going to log in as though I'm going to log into my teacher account. And so this is going to look very similar to what a teacher's organizational account looks like. So when you log in and you go to your My Bookshare page, you have a dashboard here. I have my list of members, which are the students on my account. I have 3 fake students on my account for demonstration purposes. I also have my list of sponsors, which are the other facilitators who can access this account to share books with students. And they are, I just have another fake teacher on my account besides myself. And then another important page in my Bookshare is my reading lists. So these are a bunch of lists that either I have created myself or I have imported from Bookshare. And I can make them available now to the students in my account. There are quite a few. You'll see, books like this was a list that I started, books about farming, I started my own summer reading list. This is a Bookshare created list called Teen Reads for Summer. The Throne of Glass series. So you can see that anywhere where it says under owned by, if it says Bookshare collections team, that's a list that Bookshare created and made available. If the owner is myself, then it was one that I created. So these are lists of books that I can now share with students, and we'll talk about that, because that's a really helpful way to assign books to students. Basically, you can assign a whole series at one time. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start by assigning just one book to a student. So I'm just going to go the typical route and search for, I'm going to search for How to Train Your Dragon, as that book has been on my mind. And Bookshare is going to give me a list of results. And I'm going to go ahead and grab the first 3 books. So this is, I guess I didn't know it until recently, but How to Train Your Dragon is actually a series. And so this one is the first 3 books in the series. So you'll see, I see over here a button that says Assign. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And I can assign to one or all, any, multiple or all of my students. I can assign it to all of my students by checking the little box at the top. Or I can assign it only to specific students by checking those students' boxes here. And then I click Assign. So now I've assigned that book, that series to my students, or a couple of my students. I can do the same. I can search for any book and I can assign it that way. And let's see. So that's one way to assign a book. Another easy way that I started to refer to before was to browse for books and then assign them that way. So this is actually a great way to find lists of books under Browse, which is at the top of the website under the search bar. And then I always like to show off under For Kids, purple button that says For Kids. I like to show off a couple things. One is this list called High Interest Books for Young Readers. This is a collection of books that are really geared for students who are at a lower reading level, significantly lower reading level perhaps. So it's going to have content that's of interest to, let's say, a little bit older students, but vocabulary that is appropriate for their reading level. So I'd like to show off that list. So you can easily pull that one in, import that one into your account and share it. I'm going to also show you under Popular Series a number of great collections here that Bookshare has gone ahead and curated. So you don't have to literally assign each one in the series. You can assign the whole series altogether. So for example, the Junie B. Jones series, or Henry and Mudge, or Flat Stanley, Magic Treehouse, all of these collections are already curated for you. So all you have to do is bring that list into your collection and share it with your students. So I'm going to grab Calvin Coconut, the Calvin Coconut series. And the way that I import that into my account is up here at the top. I click on this button that says subscribe. That looks like a backwards Wi-Fi symbol. And then I want to add my members. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to, actually, I'm just going to add this to my student 3020. So there's the Calvin Coconut series that I've assigned to that student. I can go back and see if there's anything else that looks of interest. We can go over that, go back to that high interest books for young readers. And let's see, this one I probably have already subscribed to. Yes, I have, but I haven't yet shared it with this particular student, and I can see that because it shows me the list of students who had access to that list. And when I first looked at it, I just had this first one, but now I've added this student 3020. So I've added those couple of books, a couple of reading lists to my account, and I've shared them with student 3020. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in on Chrome. I was on Edge previously doing that work as a teacher, but now I'm going to log in as student 3020, and they use their login that you assign them when you set them up. And you can see that in this case, it's not an email address. It's just a, it has to be, I believe, has to have letters and numbers. But anyway, it's just a name, a username. And that's one way of telling too that this student just has a school account, because when they get a full individual membership, they need to change their username to an actual email address, and we'll get to that in a second. But this is just a student with a school account. So I'm logging in now, and I'm looking at assigned books. So I should here see the How to Train Your Dragon. The first 3 books, here it is here. That's what I just assigned to that student. So it's there on their dashboard. And when I go to reading lists, you can see I demonstrate with this student a fair amount. So it's got a lot. The student has a lot of things here, but here's that high interest books for young readers. And here's the Calvin Coconut series. So these are the 2 lists that I just shared with that student. And so they can now access any of these books. And I'll go ahead and grab one of the How to Train Your Dragon books and open it up in Bookshare web reader. Let's see, I'll go ahead and grab this How to Cheat a Dragon's Curse. And so I just clicked read now. This is what your student will do. They'll just click read now and open it up in Bookshare web reader. And again, I'm on Chrome. Bookshare web reader also works in Edge, and it works in Safari. So any of those 3 browsers would have the ability to use the read now functionality. Some other browsers don't have it. When a student opens a book for the very first time, they're asked if they want to have take advantage of something called Beeline Reader, which basically, I'll go ahead and say, yes, I'll try it. It allows the text to be in a kind of a color gradiated, hold on a second here, a color gradiated style, so that it makes it a little easier, especially for students with learning disabilities, to read. Okay, so I just went to the table of contents, which is the little box with the lines in it up here at the top, and went to the first section, which is the epilogue. And actually, I think I wanted to go here and just want to get past the copyright. Okay, and so then once a student is in Bookshare web reader, they just click on the play button here.
Horrendous haddock the third was.
And actually, I'm going to change to, I have an option of any of 3 different voices that are all Microsoft voices that are on my computer. I'm going to use Microsoft Mark. The voices that are available in Bookshare web reader are going to depend on the device. So Safari has some really nice voices, I will say. So if somebody's using a Mac, they have a lot more options. These Windows machines allow me these 3 different voice options. And I'll show you a way in a minute to get another
Hiccup
option.
Horrendous haddock the third was. An awesome sword fighter, a dragon whisperer, and the greatest.
Oh. You know what? Can you guys hear the sound? I bet you I forgot that when I did the share.
Yep, we can hear it just fine, Christine. Yep. We can
Oh, okay, great. Okay, let me go back and share again then. Hang on. Okay. Going back there. Here we go. Okay, so I just pressed the play button, and the book just starts reading.
The third was an awesome sword fighter, a dragon whisperer, and the greatest Viking hero that ever lived.
Okay, so one of the things I also like to mention is a nice tool to make the reading experience even a little better in Bookshare web reader is Text Helps Read and Write. And that's that little purple puzzle piece. Some of you may already be familiar with Read and Write in your districts. It's a great tool. They offer a free version that, as you can see from this toolbar, allows for some functions. Once the free trial is over, this free version of the tool allows for me to be able to read the text, which is really all I need to do with it. There are some nice features like highlighting and different things you can do if you want to pay for the premium version, but the free one works just fine for what I want to do. So I'm just going to select some text and then hit the play button.
Hiccup Horrendous Haddock the Third was an awesome sword fighter, a dragon whisperer, and the greatest Viking hero that ever lived.
Okay, so this tool has some additional voice options, so it's definitely worth checking out. Voices are, text-to-speech voices are an important part of the student's reading experience, and whenever you can find one that really does work nicely for the student, that's a really important thing. So I think using any tool that you have at your disposal is good. So this one offers, in the Bookshare web reader itself, I had those 3 Microsoft voices. This provides access to maybe 6 or so additional voices, the read and write tool. So yeah, just try different ones until you find one that works for your student. Let's see.
Hiccup Horrendous Haddock the Third was.
Okay, so that's another one. There are definitely different ones, than some are better than others. So I definitely encourage you to check out different ones till you find one that you like. So that's a great tool that we like to recommend for reading with Bookshare. But basically, the student logged in, found the book that had been assigned to them, or the book that was on the reading list, and then selected Read Now, opened it up in Bookshare web reader, and started reading. And they can complete this process in really just a very short time. Let's see, a couple other things I wanted to mention. If I go back to my list of the books, one of the nice things about these lists too, these reading lists, so if I go back to the browse button here, and if I pull up any reading list, this is also a great way to select books to share with kids. So let's say under popular series, maybe I don't want to share the whole list with a student, but let's say I want to just give them one to try to see if they like it. And then I can always share the full list with them later. So I can open up this list and just assign any of these books individually to them using the assign button. So I can pick assign, and I can pick my student and click assign, and then that student will we'll have that book in there. If I go back now to the students page, if I go back to their dashboard, that Young Cam Jansen book is now going to be in their assigned books. So if I go back to their dashboard and go to assigned books, I should see that Young Cam Jansen. Let's see, let me actually refresh this page. See. Oh, here it is. Young Cam Jensen of the Dinosaur Game. So that one is now in their list as well. And again, just using the Read Now button, they can open it up and read it. So that's a pretty easy way for students to get access to books. A couple other things I want to show you is in the Help Center in here, there is a button called Reading Tools, and this takes you to a wizard where you can help students figure out any other tools that they want to use to read. So this page brings them to a page where they select their device that they're using to read. So either a computer or a laptop or tablet or smartphone, assistive technology device, or smart speaker device. This is new, actually, something that Bookshare recently added. So if they pick, let's say they're using maybe they have an iPad at home, this takes them to the tools that Bookshare recommends for that platform. So currently, Dolphin Easy Reader is the first one, and largely that's because it's free and it's a really nice reading tool. Then there's also Voice Dream Reader, which there is a charge for, and CaptiVoice, which has a free version and a paid version that you can pay for additional features. So this wizard is a really nice way to help students find additional ways to read books. I definitely wanted to highlight that. The other thing I wanted to highlight about when a student is in their membership, and I mentioned that this student has only a school account. They don't have the full individual membership, so they can only access books that have been shared with them by their teacher, either assigned to them, so that which would show up in this assigned books tab, or assigned to them on a reading list. But if they click this button here, read more for free, it takes them to a page that explains about the individual membership. There's a little video that walks them or their parent through how the sign up of that works. Then they click this sign up link here. It takes them to a page where a lot of information is already pre-populated. And as I mentioned before, here's where they do need to actually enter an email address that becomes their username. So whenever they log into Bookshare from then on, they'll always use that new username to log in, the email address, not the username that the teacher originally created for them. And never fear, as a teacher, you have access to this information in your account. So you'll be able to see what the student's username is. And if they forget their password, you'll be able to help them reset it. So you have access to all that. So here they just fill out their login information, and then, their new login information. And then from then on, that's what they'll use to log in. But then they have access to any book in the collection. And there is a place, if the student is under 18, on the next screen, there is a place where the parent has to check a box basically approving this. And that is an important part of this. So we do suggest that parents or students do this with their parents present, or the parent can do it. The parent can log in as the student and go through the process and approve it. So students over 18 are not, they can approve themselves. They don't have to have a parent do it. So I'm going to stop there. I've got like 2 minutes left, and I'm going to ask if there are any questions that I can answer. And let me go ahead and stop sharing, go back to the meeting. So any questions I can answer for anyone on any of that? Yeah, Jill.
I have a question. I submitted this one, but on the disability waiver part, would our Title I students qualify for that, or does it have to be like a specific learning disability?
So the way that the qualifications work is they're determined by copyright law, not by education law. So if Bookshare had its druthers, they would make it available to anybody, for any reason. But the way that they're able to offer the books is by following an exception to copyright law, which makes it allowable for them to distribute books to people with certain conditions that limit their ability to read or process print in the way someone does who doesn't have a disability. So it doesn't have to be SLD specifically, but there does need to be some reason why a student can't read or access printed text in the same way that somebody else would. So in my first session, I went through the qualifications in a little bit more detail. So I would encourage you to just listen to that recording and or check out that ABCs of Bookshare page and just look for the who qualifies information. Yeah. So unfortunately, it's not available, let's say, to all Title I students, just students who have some kind of a condition that limits their ability to read or process print.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Any other questions that I can answer? Thanks, Julie, for putting the link in for the who qualifies. Awesome. Cool. Well, those of you who are here and those who will listen to the recording, I really hope, I didn't get to talk about the summer reading program. And of course, as I mentioned, next Monday, I think Bookshare is making a big announcement about their human narrated audio books that will be available. But definitely encourage you to set up some reading lists or import some of Bookshare's reading lists to set up your students for summer reading, and make sure to help them get full individual memberships so that they can read more than just the ones that you assign to them. They can go in and search for a book and open it in Bookshare web reader, or download it within an app and read any book that they want to read, while they're over the summer. But one of the benefits of sharing an entire series is that it definitely is proven in research that if students like an author or enjoyed a particular book, they'll be more inclined to read more of that same type of book or that same author. So making those books immediately available to them in their account is an easy way to encourage that. So, and with that, I think we're out of time.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Christine, for presenting all this information. If people have more questions, feel free to hang around for another couple of minutes. I will stop the recording for now, but again, feel free to